In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can draw this trippy mushroom design using the iPad in Procreate. Mushroom is actually one of the 31 drawing prompt words from this month's Make Art May drawing challenge that I'm running for the entire month of May 2022. 31 days of May, 31 days of daily drawing prompts to help spark your creativity. You can find the list over on my Twitter, Instagram, at BeeJayDeL. But for today's video, just like always, it's in real time, no time lapse, no edit. So if you want to follow along and draw with me and learn more about Make Art May, keep watching. All right guys, so let's go ahead and draw a mushroom. Starting out, I'm using a 3000 by 3000 300 DPI RGB canvas. For my brush to begin with, I'm going to start out using the monoline brush, this part of the calligraphy set. Now this one is a default brush, so everyone has this in Procreate. Later on, once we start adding shadows and highlights, I am going to switch over to one of my custom texture packs, but that's what we're going to start out with here. And then for my color palette, once again, I've got this pre-made. So if you want to download the exact same colors that I'm using in today's video, you can download that for free if you go to my website, BeeJayDeL.com, underneath the YouTube reference materials page. I'll link it all down in the description below. You can find that along with the video at the top of the page, walks you through how to install a palette in Procreate if you've never done it before. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the background color. So let's tap on background color here, and we're just going to make this black. Now from here then, I'm going to come up here to my color palette again and select red. That's going to be the color of the mushroom cap. And then once again, using that monoline brush to start out with. We're just going to use basic shapes, so honestly, the size of the brush doesn't matter right now. It's up to you what size you want to use. So I'm just going to make an oval here, holding down my finger. As I hold down the Apple Pencil, locks it into a perfect circle. Then I'm going to drag and drop the red to fill. Of course, this is going to be the mushroom cap. It's not going to be a perfect circle, but we're going to change that now by going up here to the arrow to transform this. With freeform selected, I'll just kind of drag it more into the center here. And then I'm going to select warp, and we're going to start to kind of fine tune this. So we'll bring in the top here a little bit. We'll bring out the bottom, pull in these sides a little bit more, and pull out the bottom a little bit more. And basically what I'm trying to do is these lines should kind of be a mirror from side to side. Of course, you could draw this yourself using the symmetry tool and it would be perfect from one side to the other, but just wanted to show you using the shape how we can do the same thing here pretty easy. All right, so there we go. We've got the cap of our mushroom. Coming back up to layers now, I'm going to go ahead and slide this one to the left, and I want to duplicate it. So now we've got two of the same. Coming down to the bottom one, tapping that to select it. I'm going to come back up here to my color palette now, and I'm going to choose the second color on that top row. I'm going to drag and drop that in there. Of course, it doesn't look like it did anything because that layer is sitting below the layer we're on now. But we're going to go up to the arrow again. We're going to select freeform. We're going to start dragging this down underneath and pulling in on the sides here. You can kind of see we've got the stem here going on. So using warp here, we can start to kind of pull this down and around just like we did the top, just to get it looking exactly like we want it. Pull in the center here to narrow it out as it comes up. Whatever you want to do to make it your own. Lock that in, and there we go. We've got our base now. Okay, so from here, let's go ahead and add some of those circles to the cap. So we're going to come up here to the layers menu. I'm going to tap that top layer again, and we're going to make a new layer on top of this one. With that made then, we want to tap that, and we want to set this as clipping mask. So this is going to allow us to add in these circles here onto this layer, and it's not going to go outside of the red cap. To do that then, we got to switch our color to white. And then I'm just going to draw another oval, holding down the Apple Pencil, holding down my finger, lock it in as a circle, and drag and drop. Now from here, if you wanted to repeat that process, you could, or if you want them to be all the same size, we can just duplicate this one over and over again. So let's do that to save some time here. So we're gonna slide this one to the left. We'll duplicate it. Coming back up to that arrow then, selecting uniform here. We'll just start to move these around. So we've got one there. Then we need to come back to our original one and duplicate that. We'll just kind of place these randomly here. This is just a kind of repeat process here. So just duplicate that bottom one. Wash, rinse, and repeat. We'll just keep moving these around, kind of filling in the gaps. Get a couple more here on the right hand side, and I think we should be done. All right, there we go. I think that looks pretty good. So from here then, we can go ahead and just pinch all of those circle layers together so they're all on one layer now. From here, let's go ahead and add in some shadows starting out. So we're gonna go ahead and make a new layer here. Gonna tap that new layer and set this one as clipping mask as well, because we want this to stick to that red cap. Now you can see here, we've got two of the arrows here. So if you have multiple clipping mask layers stacked on top of each other, they're all gonna clip down to that original one that it's pointing to. All right, so let's go up to the color palette. I'm gonna choose this first color on the second row, this kind of brown color. And I'm gonna switch my brush now over to my texture pack for Procreate. And we're gonna use the paper brush to begin with here. Once again, we're on that new layer. Got that brown color here. I'm gonna have the light source coming in from here. So highlights here, shadow here, but I am gonna go ahead and do kind of like a rim light over here on the side. But we'll start out with this brown to begin with. So we're just gonna fill in just a pretty decent amount here and then down along the bottom. We've got that. Next up, coming up here to the color palette again, I'm gonna choose black. We're gonna add black to the back side because that's where the majority of the shadow is. And then I'm gonna switch over to this blue. That's gonna be the rim light here. Now, of course, we can't see where this starts because our background is black, but we can just kind of start going until something pops up. Pull that down along the bottom there in the back. All right. Now from here, I'm gonna come up to my adjustments layer and I'm gonna use Gaussian blur. We're gonna slide this to the right. So all those colors kind of fade in together, just like that. Now, of course, that doesn't look super great right now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna come up here to our layers menu. And I'm gonna tap on N to bring up the blend mode, and we're gonna change the blend mode here. We're not gonna mess with the opacity, but let's switch this over to a hard light. So you can see now how that changes the appearance of that. And then if you don't like it, if it is too harsh, you can drop the opacity from here. I say don't drop the opacity before you change that to hard light because it's gonna look different. So this way you have a little bit more control over it. Okay, so there we go. Now I'm gonna make another new layer. I'm gonna tap this and set this as clipping mask because I wanna bring out that blue just a little bit more. So from here then, I'm gonna grab the texture grain inking brush here and we'll just hit this backside just a little bit more here. And then adjustments. Gaussian blur again. We'll slide that to the right. About 11% there. And with that, I'm gonna leave it. I'm not gonna change the blend mode on that. That's how I want that to look. All right, so from here, let's go ahead and work on the highlights on the side then. So once again, another new layer. Tap, clipping mask. I'm gonna switch my brush back to that paper. And coming in here then, I'm gonna use some white. And then pull that in a little bit more. Then I am going to add another color to this color palette. I didn't initially do this when I was making it, but I think I'm going to add just kind of some bright yellow there on the side. And we'll do the same thing kind of over here that we did with that blue. Just kind of pull that yellow along there. Now coming back up here to adjustments and Gaussian blur, we're going to do the same thing. Just slide that to the right. I've got some nice highlights and some fade there. Okay. Back to our layers. One more layer for highlights here. We're going to tap that. Clipping mask. And the reason why I'm doing multiple layers like this is because I like to have control over how much Gaussian blur I use. And this is going to be kind of some bigger areas, so the amount and percentage of blur is going to be different than what I did for that other highlight area. So we'll switch back to white here. With that paper then, I'm just going to go ahead and add in some ovals here. Back to our adjustments and Gaussian blur. Slide those to the right. And I think about 33% looks pretty good there. Okay. Now we're down to the stem. So let's go down to layer 1 here. I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to tap that, set that as clipping mask as well. Back to our color palette. That brown, it's the same kind of process that we used before. So I'm pulling this brown around here. I drop the size of my brush just a little bit here when I switch to the black. Black here on the edge and underneath. And then finally, we're going to hit that blue in there again too. Bring that down on the side there. And then back up to our adjustments and Gaussian blur. Sliding to the right. About 18% looks good. Back to our layers and blend mode, we're going to change this to that hard light, just like we did with the top there. Go ahead and select that. And I don't think I'm going to add the blue back in here. I think that looks okay there. I did up here just have a little bit more control, but I like the way that blends in there. All right, finally, let's go ahead and add some kind of lines here to the stem. I'm going to zoom in so we can see a little bit better. I'm going to make another layer here. For this one, I'm going to tap on the stem though. I'm going to make a new layer, and this automatically sets that to clipping mask because this layer on top is set to clipping mask. Back to the color palette then. We've got this brown on the bottom row here. We're going to select that. And then for the brush, I'm going to switch this back to that texture grain inking brush. And I'm just going to pull some lines here. I'm going to play around with the brush size here. I think that looks pretty good, about 3%. So I'm just going to pull some lines here coming up so the stem kind of has some texture to it. You see these kind of follow the flow and the curve. So the one here in the center is going to be more straight up and down. Just kind of breaking these off so they're not solid lines going up. Now that that's done, I'm going to come up here to make these pop a little bit more. We're going to duplicate this layer now. So sliding to the left, duplicate. Come up here to the color palette. I'm going to choose white. I'm going to go back to our layers. I'm going to tap this one again. We're going to select it, tap it again, and fill layer. So now we've got white there. From here then, I want to grab the arrow, and I'm just going to pull this over to the right. So what this does is it makes this darker one kind of look a little bit more cut in, adds a little bit more three-dimensional quality to it. Now let's go ahead and pinch those together so they're all on one now. Coming up to adjustments, I'm going to select Gaussian blur here. Just slide this to the right a little bit, not too much. 2, 3%, maybe 1%. It's up to you. And then come back here to blend mode, just drop the opacity just a tad, about 90, 93%, something like that. Then pull them back out. You can kind of see what we're left with. So that's gonna be the mushroom itself. I am gonna go in now and just do a little bit more on the shadows here. When I use that Gaussian blur like that, I like to go back in and just kind of redefine them just a tad bit. So if we come up here to the layers and we make a new layer at the very top, tap this clipping mask, switch the color to black. Brush, I'm gonna go back to paper here. You're gonna see real light, I'm just gonna kind of go over some of those areas that I already had in there. I'm barely touching the screen right now. I just want really subtle shadows here. This just kind of reinforces those values that I've already got built up in here. And that's about it. That's all I'm gonna do. All right, so now let's do a background real quick. So coming down here to layer 1, let's make a new layer. I'm gonna drag this onto the bottom. Color palette then, I'm gonna come up here and I'm gonna choose the blue. And then for our brush, let's go ahead and use the flames. I think this one will look kind of cool. Max that out. And then from the center here, I'm just gonna start working in a circular motion to kind of build up the flames. So I just deleted everything out. So we got that cool kind of flame effect there. And I want this to kind of reflect the color palette that we've got going on here. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch to this yellow color now. And I'm gonna tap the flames. Let's alpha lock those. So alpha lock is kind of like clipping mask, but it lets you stay on what's colored in on that layer, but it's on the same layer. So with that selected then, let's just go ahead and on this right hand side, just kind of change this to that yellow that we use for that highlight there. So you got kind of a shift in those colors. Just like that. I think it looks pretty cool. And from here we can play with it even more if you want to. That layer select is still in the background. Liquify is a lot of fun when you do kind of like a trippy thing like this. So if we go to liquify, we've got to actually unlock this now. So if we tap this and hit unlock, come up here to our adjustments and go to liquify. Let's see, let's do a pinch first and kind of pull these in. So if we hold down now on the center here, this will kind of pinch those. And then crystals is kind of cool too. So if we use crystals here, hold down, it'll kind of make this explosion look here. You can also do it by hand if you come into the actual artwork. Just kind of adds some extra effects there. Come back here to the brush to lock it in. I think that looks kind of cool. Now if you lose too much of this rim light here, you can always go back in with the eraser. If we switch back to the flames eraser here on that same layer, we can pull out around the side here just a little bit if you want to bring that color out even more where it hits there against that rim light. Same thing here for the shadows, we can pull out a little bit so it has the color coming out from there. And I think I hit, there we go. Let me try that again. I didn't realize I had that spot over there when I had my hand down on the screen. It kind of knocked that in, so let's do that one more time, shall we? Going back to liquify, opening the layers, alpha lock. So we did pinch first, a little bit too much there. We can turn down the momentum too if it goes too fast. Do the pinch and then crystals. And using the eraser then, just a little bit to draw that out. All right. There we go. Finally then, I'm just going to go ahead and grab blue here and switch to the texture grain, zooming in. Go ahead and assign this. And there we go. A fun little quick tutorial showing you how to make this kind of trippy mushroom. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel and hit that bell for notifications so you can get alerted when I post new videos. Also, this one comes, like I said earlier, from the Make Art May drawing challenge list. 31 days in May, 31 days of daily drawing prompts. Really want you guys to be a part of it. You can find that list on my website under the YouTube reference materials page, or if you head over to my Instagram or Twitter at BeeJayDeL, you can find it there. But pick a word. You can do one day, you can do 31. It's up to you. Just want you guys to take part in it at least. And when you post them online, tag it, hashtag makeartmay, and tag me as well so I can check them out. I love seeing the work, so thanks so much. Like I said, there's gonna be prizes too if you complete all 31 days. I'm gonna select one lucky winner and send out a prize pack of original artwork and some extra surprises. So here's your chance for that, and also your chance to be featured in an upcoming video. The first week of June, I'm going to select one artist from each day. So all 31 prompts are gonna be represented, 31 different artists in a video. Your chance to see yourself right here on my YouTube channel. So definitely take part. That's it for me, and until next time, keep creating.